Hello and welcome to another video. So today we are checking out a ShadowCraft rotation deck with a fine-tuned one. This seems to be very popular and pretty powerful. Still probably not as strong as of course Haven is, but definitely doing a fairly decent job overall. I found it very easy to play and does a really nice job. There has been some debate on running the other 4-cost legendary. I think it's Aureus or Cyrus, whatever it is, that one. I'm blanking on it right this second. Either way, over Ceres. Ceres seems to be winning out as far as meta goes. It's just a all-around better card. And as long as you can play this deck fairly competently, it's not too hard to win some games. So we're going to get right into it and take a look. So first up here, we are playing against Swordcraft. Not the most popular deck right now, but still holding its own even under threat from things like Haven and even Forest. Roach seems to be dying off a little bit. It seems to be focusing more on the elf roaches, elf forest decks, which seem to be a bit more popular, going with the fairies and things like that. Then we've got pretty decent hand to start off with. I would have liked something a bit better, but we'll have to settle for it. Desert Pathfinder is a good turn 2 setup for this deck, so I don't really mind it at all. And it does counter sword pretty nicely early on, so we're going to get some value out of it. I decided to set up the Kawi Underworld. Thought that was a good move. Couldn't really decide what else to do. It's at least a decent board blocker against sword right now, so worth taking where I could. And I do decide to use my Night of Living Dog here just to remove their early game so I don't have to waste this 3/3 ramming it. Felt like the best move I could possibly go for at the current time, as the dog, while good, was going to conflict a little bit with my current game plan, where I got the Ceres Necrofamily and Viridian Magna. So I didn't really want to commit too much there on just summoning the dogs. Definitely probably could have used the dog, I'm not saying you couldn't, but for my current predicament, I decided that was going to be my best line of play. And Ceres works wonders against sword typically. There isn't a lot that can counter it super hard. Omen is a pretty decent one, but still not going on its own without a buff. Luckily, King's Might is a really good buff, and Gilded Blade allows them to just take it out with enough, but that did sacrifice a good amount of value for that, so it's actually quite nice to see. We can go for our Ram, which will set up for our Great Tree that we can also combo with the Necro family. That would be great. I really like the Necro family. It's a great card for Shadow, and actually goes really, really nicely with Viridian Magna, since they both take advantage of destruction of Great Trees, so it's always nice. So we can just kind of whittle this down while also getting the advantage of destroying some trees and, of course, getting some free draw off these cards. I decided to go all in here, just getting as much to the board as I could, trying to set up for the Throth play. Since, of course, the more last words we have go off, the closer we'll get to that, and then the easier it'll be to win the game from there. Princess Strike, really good, especially with King's Might here. Not going to really be enough though, because they do of course have to deal with everything here. And I can easily just keep going for these Necros, which is great. So now it was just a matter of deciding which way to take the rest of this game. I decided that going all in on the Necro Familiars was going to be good. The Necro Faunas really doing the little bit of damage I needed. Even if I had to waste a couple to play the Ceres. Again, great card against swords, so whenever I can get that down is always worthwhile. I do decide to hold the Evo this time though, just in case, because you never know what might come up. And we've got the Viridian Magnas anyway, so we're not really in too much danger. No matter what we really go up against here, it's not going to be too hard to deal with. Unfortunately for us, Underworld Sovereign is awesome. It's not quite enough to go for lethal on our current hand, but that really did help close the game for us, so it was going to be enough to threaten them. Next up, we have a Shadow versus Havencraft. Havencraft being the most popular deck in the current rotation ladder. No surprise, it is super powerful. It'll probably see some form of nerf going forward. It's not a huge shock, to be honest. From what I've seen so far, their play rates are reasonably high and their win rate's quite high, so it's bound to get hit with something. If not, we'll see a massive buff to some other stuff, no doubt, but we don't see buffs that often. So it'll be interesting. So I'd like to go for the early Throth here. Don't really have a lot else I can play. This time I want to hold on to the dogs since I have 2 of them. And we've already got an okay setup for the mid game. I just need to really closed out. Fortunately, the 2-2 is quite good. Looks like we aren't going up against, or maybe we are going up against the crazy Haven decks, but usually when they play this line of set, it's Elena Haven. So I'm not 100% sure at this point on what it could be. And again, I went for an early Underworld Air, mainly because I'm not sure what I'm coming up against until now, where they finally dropped the Elena. It was pretty obvious from the initial 2-drop play, but I didn't want to risk it and not have anything on board. Fortunately, the Manifest Malice was a great top deck, locking them out of really doing anything too crazy, and Desert Pathfinder with the extra damage for the evolve, plus giving me the extra Great Tree will go really well with the dog. And I decided just to throw that to get the Great Tree, not that I needed to. Unicorn Spear and Realm of Repose. That's pretty good. Got to give it to them there. They're definitely going to lock us out a little bit. And I decided to just go pretty much all in on this hand right now with what I've got. Filling up our board to try and counter this Tutankhamun. Servant of Repose. Not really a problem since they are going to get reposed themselves, so it's a good damage turn, but they don't really have a lot else going for them, so as long as we can get damage in and they can't quite reach lethal, we should be fine. Of course, they do only need 2 heals in this turn to win, so they don't need a lot. It's definitely a tricky situation. And there is their first heal. They do decide to trade there though, so that looks good. It looks like they didn't have that second heal in their hand. And by the looks of the Robo Falcon, they definitely didn't quite have it, which is great for us. The only problem now is we're looking at a board that could easily crush us, so we want to try and mitigate that as much as possible. So we have to go all in on the dogs here just so we can get rid of the 9-12 and potentially the 8-4. Fortunately, with a couple of good draws, we've managed to get our dogs up fairly quickly. So I do have to make the final decision here though. I had to go for the Manifest Malice if I wanted to clear the 9-12 without wasting both the dogs, so definitely was the right choice. And while we're still looking down the barrel of a pretty heavy board, it's not the end of the world. I think we can make a pretty decent comeback off this. We just really need to stick something to this and be able to counter enough to keep going. We don't quite have anything on hand that would be that useful for that at this point. But the Underworld Sovereign is definitely going to help us out. I mean, it is something that we can use. We can't get the effect off it yet, but we can at least try and mitigate whatever damage we're going to take next turn by healing as much as possible and hopefully removing at least one of these cards here. And I probably should have tried to play that hand better so that I could, of course, take out the 10-6. Since we are only literally 1 buff away from being dead again. Luck looks like it's going to be on our side though, as they did decide to counter instead of going for the kill, so that worked wonders for us. At this point though, I was a little worried that we weren't going to have lethal. Fortunately, I forgot that Underworld Sovereign would be procced again next turn. With the Viridian Magnet in hand to take out the ward, we actually have just enough to go for lethal, which is going to work out really, really nicely. Giving us a perfect lethal. So a very close game, definitely was at risk for 3 turns. Not a situation you want to be in, but we managed to prevail in the end. So this is definitely one of the better rotation show decks I've played as of late. I recommend giving it a go if you've got the cards to do so. It is reasonably legendary heavy on this end here with 10, but that's pretty okay. Actually 13, sorry, once we count the 2-drop, but Even just the high drops aren't cheap, so you're looking at a reasonably expensive deck. But again, probably won't be hit by the nerf, which is quite a good bonus. When a nerf obviously will probably come up, or if in the best case it gets buffed, which could be even more insane. So you're looking at a reasonably powerful deck overall. Hopefully you guys do enjoy this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. Be sure to check this deck out if you get a chance. Until next time, guys, see ya.